Hello, hello. We're back for another episode of the Aleph Zero Podcast. I'm Mateusz Bryk, the marketing lead at Aleph Zero, and it happens to be that I'm your host. And today we'll be catching up with Mateusz Bryk, Aleph Zero's very own product design lead. In this episode, we'll take a look behind the scenes of building Aleph Zero and Web3 products from the design standpoint, but it won't be about the visual design. We'll be talking about product design, which is effectively making applications that people will love to use. Hello, Mateusz. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here too. Thanks.
Just so all of the listeners know, you're actually the father of Aleph Zero branding. You created it. We'll get to that later, but first, tell us a bit of your background. How did you end up doing what you do today?
Okay, so let me start from the beginning. I'm an architect by education. And while I was still studying, I did a relief printing course and also ran a clothing brand for a while. I also worked for some time on prototyping industrial forms, so using a CO2 laser. And I need to say that was a great time then. And yeah, what else? Then I got into advertising for a few years. I reached the role of an art director and had the opportunity to work for big brands like Porsche, Mazda, and Samsung, Leroy Merlin, Santander Consumer Banks, and many others.
So, how did you go from architecture and advertising to product design? Like, all those require visual design skills, but used on so many different levels.
Yes. At the same time I was working advertising agency, I was studying user experience and product design. And afterwards, I took the opportunity to and started working in the internal marketing department of a tech company. And yeah, there I became the marketing design lead, leading a creative team of four really talented people. And yeah, that's actually where I met you, Raku, and Antoni.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, we can talk probably later if you want to.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I've been working as a freelancer on many smaller and larger projects, mainly in the field of visual branding. So yes, there's been quite a bit going on, I need to say, and yeah, it makes me feel much older than I actually am.
Yeah, I can relate. Like, people also often asked me throughout my career that how can you have such a diverse experience? And yeah, the answer is really simple. Like, lots of work across different projects, freelancing.
Yeah, but we still look young, right?
yeah, we try to. We do our best. Yeah, but yeah, all those different projects actually give you so much of a different perspective, and it compounds, but also makes you feel kind of old, at least internally. So yeah, I think many of our listeners would agree, especially in crypto, where 1 month is like 4 years. But okay, what brought you here to Aleph Zero and Cardinal Cryptography?
What brought me here? Yeah, I believe it was meant to be. Antoni, along with the other co-founders, needed branding for their new project. And what I can say, I happened to be available. And it was a side job then. We quickly managed to create the branding for Aleph Zero, which has been expanded and continues to be used to this day. And yeah, then some time passed until I finally decided to join the team for good. And yeah, it will be 2 years in October.
Yeah, great to have you here. I remember those early days when we were working, I think, on the first business white
Yes,
paper.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that was fun times. There still are, but yeah, you always look, in the past with some nice memories. But yeah, can you explain what was your thought process behind creating the brand of Aleph Zero?
Hmm. Well, this is quite a broad topic, so I don't know. Maybe let me narrow it down to just the logotype.
Yeah,
What do you
please
think?
do.
Okay. So yeah, the first guideline was simplicity. So yeah, the brand mark should be a symbol that, as I don't know, smile child can draw from memory. And at the same time, the brand mark should be unique enough to stand out from from other projects.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Like simplicity always wins over the long run,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yes.
this idea that a child can basically take a stick and write this on a sand, like the our brand mark. This is really powerful. But maybe let's get into the values of Aleph Zero. Like, what values did you want the Aleph Zero brand to communicate? I know it's always a thing when you are designing a brand. So, what feelings should people have when looking at it?
Well, I won't answer the question of how people should feel because, in my opinion, that would be imposing interpretation, right? But I would prefer people to have their own thoughts around it and they then check if it all aligns with my idea.
All right, so let's stick with what the brand was meant to represent.
So before starting work on the actual graphic symbol, three values were formulated that it should represent. So it was security, speed, and openness. And yeah, I think we managed to incorporate each of them in at least some way. So yeah, for example, openness. Aleph Zero openness, it's literal. What I did is I opened up the first letter of the Latin alphabet to show the permissionless aspect and the open source spirit of the project. So the A letter serves as an independent brand mark, but in the same time it's also the beginning of the logo type itself. So it's incomplete, but readable as the typography of the remaining characters/letters. So I wanted all of this to invite people into a world that is emerging, that is the beginning of something new. I know, which is still unknown in many aspects, but with solid foundations.
All right, thanks for that backstory. So let's switch gears a bit and get to the products. And let's start with this. What do you hate about blockchain-based products? And you can be honest here.
That's tricky question. But yes, my personal experience is, I guess, the result of many factors. But there was a lack of standardization in the industry. Yeah, that resulted in different names for example, the same things. Let's say secret phrase, secret key, secret seed, private key, recovery phrase. Yeah, it's more or less the same thing. But what else? Poor user interface was also common. Lack of transaction confirmation screen. Yeah, lack of simple wizards. Lack of helpful materials, which could be written in simple language.
Yeah, people tend to overcomplicate these things. And how it's changed over the years.
Sure. Yeah, that was some time ago. So new and better products have emerged. Yeah, and yeah, some have also improved, and what to say, like some haven't. But yeah, overall, I see a clear trend towards improvement. Of course, my industry knowledge has expanded too. So now it's more difficult for me to look at the problem from that perspective. Yeah, but what I want to emphasize here is the fact that we constantly have had and will have people who are just entering the industry as our users.
Yeah, and we should definitely take care of them. And currently, do you see those trends as positive? Like, what's happening from your perspective?
Well, I see an increasing number of products competing with each other. So, that leads to their evolution, I would say. They need to become user friendly and intuitive. So otherwise, other will do it. As simple as that. But yeah, of course, that takes time. But on the other hand, the crypto industry is extremely dynamic, so it may not require as much time as we think.
All right, so we have nailed down the problems or just the tip of the iceberg, but how to solve that problems? And maybe the solution to that is actually how do you work in the product team on those problems?
To help the users, what we of course want to, we need to first understand their problems and challenges they face, right? So by only focusing on technology, it's just easy to overlook who we are designing for. This is nothing new, I would say. It's in more major industries like banking, but in the case of crypto, yeah, I would say it's still not so obvious.
Yeah, and is this why you have followed the similar approach as you mentioned, like the banking or fintech industry?
Yeah. That's why we have Tony on board. He's a UX researcher, so his role is to gather such a data using various tools, such as interviews, surveys, polls, workshops, and just listening to the community or even stakeholders. Yeah, then we combine this data into larger group and transform them into concrete ideas, prioritize them, and only then we design and code and validate. And we check that we achieved what we really wanted.
Is this some kind of a standard process, something that is widely known?
Yes. We call this cycle continuous discovery. And what is interesting here, there is no end of it. There is always something to can be improved, right? Or created anew. It's important to know that this data is very often not so obvious. Sometimes users themselves don't know the answers, or they think what they say will be perfect. So the ability to analyze such data is skill itself, in my opinion.
And how to make it work, this whole process?
Mm, all of this needs to consider business needs and resources. The entire mentioned process, is quite extensive and complex. And to make it work, certain standards are needed within the company that enable optimal communication between different departments. So, yeah, generally speaking, we can adapt certain solutions from other industries, and this is what we are doing here. But yeah, I emphasize adapt because direct copying is not the solution, simply because of the different nature of the crypto industry.
And are there products that come to your mind, especially crypto products, that really stand out from the user experience standpoint?
I think we don't have time for a deeper analysis.
Yeah, we can make it shorter.
Yes. Okay. So, I used to be a big fan of the iOS app Mayar. It was a mobile wallet for the Elrond network.
Yeah, I know this one.
Yeah, when Elrond underwent rebranding and became a Multiverse X, Mayar also changed to X Portal, and unfortunately, there were other changes apart from the branding aspects.
All right, so this is what made it worse to your at least taste. But what was so great about it?
Well, when I first started using the app, I was guided through a great onboarding wizard. That was really nice. And it made it easier to start using it. And what else? Then I was encouraged to learn more through quests that showcased more and more features. And yeah, and if I didn't know what to do or wanted to learn more, it was always one click away from the relevant help guide, and it was really great. And the overall UX and UI were good enough to make me stay longer in the app. So yeah, I was engaging, and many crypto apps just aren't like that, in my opinion. But what can I say more? This was an approach we know from the example neobanks applications, but not from the crypto, right? So drawing inspiration from solid patterns outside the industry can work really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like this is basically how you innovate in so many areas. You take look beyond your bubble, you find solutions that work there and try to adapt them back into your industry. So I've heard that this was what Nike did with Nike Air. That was like an innovation from an aeronautical engineer, like in a shoe company. So yeah, this is how you basically innovate. But yeah, what do you think about the whole space? Like what needs to happen across the whole space to improve the user experience? Like we know we follow certain patterns because we don't know any other way around, for example, handling seed phrases or what have you. But like, what should we have new technologies, creative solutions, or like just more education so it stays like it is, but users can find their ways here easier?
Well, mainly it's about what I mentioned before. So I believe that listening to the users is the key to success. Constantly seeking opportunities to improve one's product is also crucial. Yeah, what else? There is no such things as a perfect product. So yeah, it can always be better. If not for one group of users, then for another, or perhaps even for a completely new group.
Yeah, so let's change the topic a bit, because yeah, we mentioned how we can improve the user experience for the whole space, but I know you are trying to do it in your day-to-day job. So what have you been working on lately?
It's common. It's common, and it's first stage of release. And yes, for those who don't know what common is, it's a private decentralized exchange. So in short, DEX.
Yeah, and we can also mention that the first stage is the AMM-based DEX
Right.
without privacy, right? And then the second stage is the fully blown private order book-based DEX. So what design challenges have you encountered so far when working on Common as a DEX?
Mm-hmm. I think finding the right balance is crucial. Yeah, a balance between what the market and users need and what is expected from the product in terms of business and what we can deliver with the current resources in a reasonable time frame. That all are challenges, right? So that's why we don't try to reinvent the wheel. We rely on good patterns, which you could name as, I guess, industry standards, but of course, analyzing and tweaking them before.
And how about like the product's growth, how it develops over the months and years? How challenging is that from this standpoint?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are also challenges in what will be the product through its life cycle. So yeah, like you mentioned before, the first iteration is an AMM DEX, but then we have order book DEX with privacy features. Yeah, we have to ensure that both versions will work towards their goals, and of course, and will delight users, right? So what I want to say, revolutionary products take time, but users want to have them now. So it's a way of having both. But only if the first iteration is also useful for the users, and I believe we can do it. Yeah, not only for the Aleph Zero ecosystem.
All right, so I think that's what we can say about Kaman as of now, and let's try to add some value to those listeners that are, for example, founders or are working on some new products in Web3 or in Aleph Zero ecosystem. So Where would you start product design if you were to do it now?
Where to start? That's a hard question. It depends on many factors, but for sure, I have one advice. Long story short, any test is better than no test at all. So, if you really don't have the option to make, the professional tests, yeah, just let's try to, run corridor tests or even invite family or friends to do it with you. So let's not just trust ourselves, I would say. Yeah. As you go deeper into the design, it's easy to find a different perspective than yours. There are many opportunities to make the product better, but without test, we just don't give the opportunity a chance. That's simple as that.
And to those that are not familiar with the term, what are those corridor tests?
Well, it's just the test inside the firm or company. So if you ask your coworkers to do the test with you, this is what we call corridor tests.
Right, so it's named from the place where they
Yes, every company have corridors.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, happens to do so. Maybe not in this like remote work setting, but I know where you're coming from. All right, so we have the test, but what should you do then with the results? Like, I'd assume you formulate some insight or thesis. You work on the first iteration of a wireframe, and then we'll do more tests. Just like at least how I'd imagine that, but it seems so time consuming while you could just sit down and write that and just design that. So would you say that you can shorten this process with just having someone in your team who has more experience on product design, and then you can just skip certain parts?
Yeah, like you say, yeah, it is time consuming, that's for sure. But yeah, answering to your question, more experience means, some psychological patterns. So you know what works in many cases, but at the same point, that will be why we'll design every other product in a similar manner. So while the market will be changing, right? So yeah, this is how you make outdated products. So I would definitely listen to what the user have to say. But yes, iterative design is probably the only way to really nailing the design down. Hardly ever you will do it at the first take.
And what would you say that how is the product design different from brand design? How should a founder or like a designer in such early stage project look at those two terms and schools of design?
I would say, it's never just a product or just a brand. Everything has its own function. But yeah, you can think about the brand as a whole, right? But the same branding should serve different product purposes. So let me give you the example. Banks can have influencers for promoting their products, right? And services in some loose way, but you don't have to see them when you log in to the app and just check your account balance. So you want a professionally looking product that builds just trust in this case, I guess. But that's how far branding can go and differ among use cases. But this is such a broad topic.
Yeah, but basically, how I understand that is that your brand should be, flexible enough that you can use it in the app, but outside of the app, it doesn't have to follow the same patterns, right?
Yes and no.
All right, so we'll get into that later in other episode, because yeah, design is such an important part of any product that we should definitely explore this topic more. So in the next episode, we'll take a look at what we just touched upon, like what does the branding take us to from the marketing standpoint. So yeah, thank you, Mateusz, for joining us.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
do
Glad
you
to
ha-
be here.
anything to add?
No, I'm fine.
All right. So thank you for listening, and yeah, stay tuned for more. And if you are not subscribing our podcast, make sure you do that on your favorite platform. Bye.